Hello and welcome back to the Fantasy Playmakers. What's up, guys? For today's video, I'm going to be putting out another set of Dynasty rankings. Yesterday, I put out my top 30 running back Dynasty rankings, and so now it's time to put out my top 30 wide receivers. If you guys watch this video and find yourself enjoying the content, please just make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Then also let me know your thoughts down below. Do you guys think that some of these players should be higher or lower? Let me know your reasoning and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But let's start it off with my number one Dynasty fantasy wide receiver, and it has got to be Justin Jefferson. He's only 22 years old. He had unreal rookie production, and he's lined up to be a wide receiver one for 8+ years, and he has enough security at the quarterback position with Kirk Cousins that I feel comfortable with him for the foreseeable future. Now at number 2, I have A.J. Brown, who's only 23 years old, and Julio joining the Titans really doesn't affect how I rank A.J. Brown because, it may limit his ceiling for a few seasons, but this is Dynasty, so you're really focused on the long term of all of these players, so his ceiling may be limited, but playing with a wide receiver like Julio is really only going to help A.J. Brown in the long run. He gets to learn how to be a true alpha in an offense, and it's really just going to help his progression as a player. Now moving on to number 3, I have DK Metcalf, who is also 23 years old, was in that same draft class with A.J. Brown, and DK is attached to Russell Wilson, which is always great. Russ still has a lot of years left in his career, and DK Metcalf also going to be a wide receiver one for a long time. Tyreek Hill is up here at number 4. He's 27 years old, so he's a little bit older than those top 3 players that I talked about, but he's still going to have wide receiver one production for at least a few more years, and being attached to Patrick Mahomes is very valuable. You're going to see this trend throughout these rankings. Wide receivers that are attached to top tier quarterbacks are going to be ranked very highly because it just gives you a lot of security, for years in advance. Now at number 5, I have Stefon Diggs, who's 27, and he's basically in the exact same situation as Tyreek Hill. They're both 27 years old. They're both going to be wide receiver ones for the next couple of years, and Stefon Diggs is attached to Josh Allen like Tyreek Hill is attached to Patrick Mahomes. So they're both playing with high-end quarterbacks, which is why I have Stefon Diggs here at number 5. Now moving on to number 6, I have Davante Adams, who is 28 years old, and if Aaron Rodgers is back, I could see him moving ahead of Tyreek Hill and Stefon Diggs just because I think his ceiling is much higher and he's only 1 year older. However, if Aaron Rodgers is gone, I think Davante Adams definitely has to move down my rankings. He's a little on the older side, and he will definitely lose value if he's not playing with one of those top-tier quarterbacks. Jamar Chase is up next at number 7. He's only 21 years old, and despite not playing in an NFL game yet, I still think Chase has incredible value. He's one of the best wide receiver prospects we've seen in a while, and now he's paired with his college quarterback, Joe Burrow. Those two are going to be playing together for a long time, and Jamar Chase has the same ability as Justin Jefferson to be a wide receiver one for like 9-10 years in the NFL. At number 8, I have CeeDee Lamb, who's only 22 years old, and even though he's the wide receiver 2 on the Cowboys, I really think that's outweighed by how young he is and just the long-term pairing he has with Dak. Dak signed that long-term extension this offseason, and these two are going to be playing together for a long time. And even if CeeDee Lamb is the wide receiver 2, if you're getting high-end wide receiver 2 numbers from a guy for, 10 years, I will totally take that. All right, at number 9, I have Brandon Ayuk, who's 23, and he had a great rookie year. I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 of this team for a long time. I do think he's a better overall player than Deebo Samuel, and you also have him paired with the future quarterback, Trey Lance. Trey Lance is going to be there for a while if he hits, and I trust this coaching system, Kyle Shanahan, to really help Lance develop. And if Lance can ball out, then Brandon Ayuk is going to be a top-tier fantasy asset for a long time. Now back on some of the players who are in their late 20s, I have Michael Thomas at number 10. He's definitely a little bit on the older end, but he does provide a great win-now value. No matter who the quarterback is going to be in New Orleans, Thomas is going to get a ton of value, and he does have the play style to succeed later in his career. He doesn't rely on some kind of insane athleticism. He's just a very solid, consistent receiver. Next up at number 11, I have DJ Moore, who's 24 years old, and he's a guy who's going to be a consistent low-end wide receiver 1 or a high-end wide receiver 2 play for years to come. And if Sam Darnold hits as a quarterback, if he's able to kind of reinvent himself with the Panthers, Moore's ceiling goes up substantially. But even if Darnold, doesn't really hit and he's just mediocre, DJ Moore has proven he can produce without having high-quality quarterbacks. Calvin Ridley is up here at number 12. He's 26 years old, and he now has that alpha role with the Falcons. I think Matt Ryan should have at least a couple more years with this team, which gives him enough security for the future. So he's a guy who's probably going to be a wide receiver 1 for 4 or 5 more years. All right, at number 13, I have Chris Godwin, who's 25 years old. He basically has a floor of a wide receiver 2, and he has proven that he can be a high-end wide receiver 1. We saw that in 2019 with Jameis Winston, and he's going to be attached to a high-scoring offense for at least the next couple of years with the Bucs and Tom Brady. At number 14, I have a guy who a lot of people would expect to be ranked higher. It's DeAndre Hopkins, but he is 29 years old, and that's definitely a big factor here. And even though I expect Hopkins to be a wide receiver 1 for at least 3 more years with Kyler Murray at quarterback, being almost 30 greatly limits your ability to trade him. So if you're drafting him, you're basically locked into winning now, or you're just not going to recoup that value in a trade. Now at number 15, I have Terry McLaurin, who's 25. He's a great young receiver, but I'm a little bit worried he's going to become like an Allen Robinson type of receiver where he never gets that top tier quarterback. Don't get me wrong, I am very excited about him playing with Ryan Fitzpatrick this year, but that's definitely not a long-term solution at the quarterback position. Ryan Fitzpatrick is 38, so he's definitely not one of these young guys. And so Terry would spring up my rankings if the quarterback position got a major long-term upgrade, but I'm just worried if it's actually going to happen because I do think this Washington football team roster is talented enough where I don't know if they're ever going to be picking, top 10 for the foreseeable future, but we really just have to wait and see for Terry. Allen Robinson is now up at number 16. He's 27 years old and one of the most reliable wide receivers in the NFL, and he finally has some hope at quarterback with Justin Fields. So if Fields does hit, I think that definitely prolongs Allen Robinson's fantasy career, especially if he stays with the Bears. Another 27-year-old wide receiver is up here at number 17, and that is Mike Evans. He's another guy who's been incredibly reliable year in and year out. He's had 1,000 receiving yards in every one of his NFL seasons. Just a truly special accomplishment. And he has at least 2 more years with Tom Brady and this top-tier offense. So, enough future security to feel confident drafting him. At number 18, I have T. Higgins, who is going into his sophomore season. He's only 22 years old, and he had a great rookie breakout. He would be much higher on this list if Jamar Chase wasn't drafted by the Bengals, but I just expect T. Higgins to be the wide receiver 2 on this team for the future, but he can definitely still put up big numbers in that role, and being connected to Joe Burrow is definitely a big positive. Now at number 19, I have another sophomore wide receiver, Chase Claypool. He's also 22 years old, and he also had a very special rookie year, but he does have a lot of uncertainty at the quarterback position. Big Ben is on his last legs in the NFL, and so Chase Claypool is a top-tier talent, but really just not a lot of clarity in his situation. Amari Cooper comes in at number 20. He is 27 years old, and I expect him to continue to be the wide receiver 1 of the Cowboys, especially with Dak locked up at quarterback. And Amari Cooper is signed through the 2024 season, which is great for his long-term outlook. Now at 21, I have another Steeler. It's Deontay Johnson. He's 24 years old, and I think he's the current wide receiver 1 on the Steelers. But just like Claypool, Johnson is going to be hurt by their quarterback situation. Big Ben, they don't have a kind of future guy in the wings. But of all the wide receivers in Pittsburgh, I think Deontay Johnson has the best chance to succeed regardless of quarterback, just because he is more of a volume guy compared to Chase Claypool, who's more of a big play guy. Now at number 22, I have Courtland Sutton, who's 25, and it seems like a lot of people have kind of forgotten about him after his ACL injury in 2020, but he still has a very bright future. But the Broncos quarterback situation does concern me, but it could change soon hopefully for him, but definitely no guarantees there, which is why he comes in at number 22. Moving on to number 23, I have Keenan Allen, who's 29, so definitely on the older side, which restricts his trade value, similar to what I talked about with DeAndre Hopkins, but he's the perfect player to have if you're a contending team because you're likely going to get a few more top seasons out of him, especially with Justin Herbert at quarterback. I think Keenan Allen's dynasty value was really falling off up until that Justin Herbert breakout, so I think he kind of definitely revitalized his career and is definitely prolonging it for dynasty purposes. Another wide receiver in their late 20s comes in here at number 24. It's Cooper Kupp, who is 28. And once again, age is definitely a factor in this lower ranking, but I do expect Kupp to ball out with Matthew Stafford. And so again, another guy who has a few more years of top production. Kenny Golladay is here at number 25. He's 27 years old, but we really just don't know how this season is going to play out. I think there's two main possibilities. Either he balls out and really elevates Daniel Jones, which definitely raises his value, almost like a Stephon Diggs to Josh Allen kind of connection, definitely not to the same level, but kind of like that jump. Or this team kind of flops and the Giants are likely looking for a new quarterback, because if Daniel Jones doesn't produce this year, I think he's definitely probably done in New York, and that would definitely decrease Galladay's value, so kind of a make or break year for him here. Now at number 26, I have Jerry Jeudy, who is 22. He had a very under-the-radar rookie year. It was solid. I don't think it was as productive as some people were anticipating, but definitely still encouraging. I do think he's likely to be the wide receiver 2 behind Sutton, but just like Courtland Sutton, the quarterback situation is rough, but it could always improve. I talked about this yesterday with Javonte Williams, where the Broncos have shown interest in these quarterbacks. They were looking to trade for Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, even Aaron Rodgers this offseason. So the fact that they're motivated to make a move is encouraging, but it definitely hasn't happened yet, so we can only hope for it. At 27, I have the third Steelers wide receiver in these top 30 rankings. It is Juju-Smith Schuster. And even though he's been a huge disappointment the last 2 seasons and never really lived up to his top tier wide receiver hype that he had in 2018, he's still only 24 years old, which is very young for the stage of his career that he's in. And I definitely think he could see some value if he lands in a favorable spot in 2022. He re-signed with the Steelers on a 1-year deal this offseason, but if he can go to another team and be their wide receiver 2 behind an alpha receiver, we saw how well he did when Antonio Brown was the number 1, then I think Juju Smith could really return some fantasy value. Robert Woods is up next here at number 28. He is 29, so definitely one of the older guys, but I still think he has some solid years of wide receiver 2 production ahead of him, especially with Matthew Stafford coming in. Basically pretty similar to Cooper Kupp, it's just that Robert Woods is a year older. With my last 2 spots in these rankings, they're both going to go to rookie wide receivers. So at 29, I have Rashad Bateman, who's 21 years old, and he's my second favorite rookie wide receiver talent-wise from this 2021 class. And I'm definitely higher on the Baltimore landing spot than most are. Obviously it's not a top half passing offense, but I do think their passing is going to improve this year, and talent tends to win out at the wide receiver position. And I think Rashad Bateman is incredibly talented, and I'm expecting a very solid career out of him. Now at number 30, the other rookie wide receiver I have here is Devontae Smith. He's 22, and even though I don't love the Eagles overall, I do think Smith will have the opportunity to be the alpha, and so if he produces anywhere near as effectively as he did in college, he will be a solid dynasty asset. All right, so that is going to wrap it up for my top 30 dynasty wide receiver rankings. Thank you guys so much for stopping by and watching and listening. If you guys enjoyed the content, all I ask is that you guys leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Then also let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But that's all I have for you guys today. Make sure if you haven't already, check out the running back rankings that I put out yesterday, and then stay tuned for my quarterback and tight end dynasty rankings that are going to be coming out in the next 2 days. Thank you guys again, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.